Today, we're going to dive into a pretty radical new economic model. It's one designed from scratch to deal with the kinds of challenges we're facing in the 21st century. It's called Adaptive Mutualism, and, well, it pretty much asks us to rethink everything we think we know about how an economy is supposed to work.
You know, for generations, the whole economic debate has felt like this simple choice. You're either for capitalism or you're for socialism. But here's the thing. Both of those systems came of age in a totally different world, a world that, frankly, doesn't exist anymore. So what if that whole debate is a false choice? What if we're just stuck arguing about two old operating systems that can't really solve our biggest problems today? Okay, so the whole premise behind adaptive mutualism is pretty wild. Imagine tasking two advanced AIs. One is systems designer, the other a heterodox economist, someone who thinks way outside the mainstream box, and telling them to just build a new economy from first principles. The goal wasn't to just patch up an old system. No, it was to create something brand new, optimized not for profit, not for state control, but for human flourishing, all while staying within the actual limits of our planet.
All right, so let's get into it. Before you can build something new, you have to get really clear on what's broken with the old model. The AIs identified 10 core failures in our current systems, but we can really boil them down into three big categories.
First up, you've got what are called coordination failures. Think about it. Markets are amazing at some things, like figuring out how many new smartphones to make, but they're terrible at pricing in things they don't have to pay for, like, say, carbon pollution. On the flip side, socialist-style central planning just completely buckles under the massive complexity of a modern economy. Then we have time and scale failures. Our systems are just wired for short-term profits and are based on this crazy idea of infinite growth, which just isn't possible on a finite planet. And last, but definitely not least, power failures. Whether it's capitalism or socialism, economic power ends up concentrated in the hands of a few, which leaves most of us without any real say in the decisions that shape our entire life.
So with this clear diagnosis of what's wrong, the AI designers went to the drawing board to build something with a completely different foundation.
And here it is, adaptive mutualism. Its core purpose is an endless growth. It's not about maximizing profit. The entire point of the system is to enable human flourishing, to make sure everyone has security, autonomy, and a chance at meaningful work, all while operating within the hard physical limits of our biosphere. That's the goal.
Okay, so how would a system like this actually work? Let's get into the mechanics. The most innovative piece of this puzzle is how it handles resources. It's definitely not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal.
This right here is the heart of the model, a hybrid, four-part system. Instead of trying to use only markets for everything or only central planning for everything, it actually matches the tool to the type of resource. The big idea is simple, right? Use the right tool for the right job. So first up, the absolute basics, things we all need to just survive and live a decent life, like healthcare, food, and housing. The system uses something called universal access. These things are treated as fundamental human rights, they're paid for collectively, and they're guaranteed to everybody. They are just taken completely off the market.
But, and this is a big but, markets don't just disappear. For all the personal goods and services, things like clothes or entertainment or travel, where your individual taste is really what matters, for those things, the system still uses markets because they are a fantastic, efficient way to figure out what millions of different people actually want.
And what about our shared resources, the commons, things like our forests, our fisheries, our clean water? For those, it's not the market or some distant central planner who gets to decide. Instead, they're managed through democratic governance by the actual communities that depend on them, all while having to respect hard, science-based ecological limits. And finally, what about tomorrow? What about big investments in new technology or infrastructure? Well, those decisions aren't just left up to whoever has the most capital. The system uses participatory planning. This means communities actually get a say in deciding their long-term economic priorities, with markets providing feedback on what's feasible and what people want.
So, you can start to see how this system completely changes the game on big ideas like progress, innovation, and even our relationship with the natural world. It's a fundamentally different philosophy.
This quote just nails the philosophical shift. Our current system often acts like we're conquerors of nature, like it's some machine we can just tweak for maximum output. Adaptive mutualism reframes our role completely. We're not conquerors, we're gardeners. We're an integrated part of the ecosystem, and our job is to nurture and steward it because we know our survival absolutely depends on its health.
This new mindset totally redefines what progress even means. The goal isn't just infinite material growth anymore. It's qualitative improvement, better health, more free time, deeper connections. Innovation isn't rewarded just for capturing a market. It's rewarded for having a positive social impact. And this is huge. Knowledge isn't hoarded as private property. It's shared freely in open source commons so we can all solve problems faster together.
Now, an idea like this doesn't exist in a vacuum. Adaptive mutualism isn't the only post-capitalist vision out there. So to really get a handle on it, let's compare it to another well-known idea, Jacques Fresco's Venus project and its resource-based economy. Looking at them side by side, you can see some really key differences. The Venus project is technocratic. It relies on experts to make the big decisions, and it gets rid of markets entirely. Adaptive mutualism, on the other hand, puts a huge emphasis on democratic participation. It keeps markets around for personal goods to preserve individual choice, and it suggests a much more gradual, evolutionary change instead of one big global switch.
Okay, so this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? How on earth would a transition like this even begin? Well, the model doesn't call for some sudden, violent revolution. Instead, it lays out a really gradual, organic path to change.
The whole strategy is to start small and just build momentum. So step one is pilot programs. You test these hybrid ideas in one specific sector, like housing or energy, inside a single city or region. Step two is to build up parallel institutions, basically strengthening the stuff we already have, like worker co-ops and community land trusts. And the final step is organic adoption. The idea isn't to force this on anyone. It's to prove that it just works better, that it delivers better outcomes, and to attract people to join in voluntarily.
And that really leaves us with a final question to chew on. What would our world actually look like if the goal of our economy changed from just getting bigger to actually getting better? What if we optimize not for endless growth, but for balance, for human flourishing, and for long-term resilience? That's the future that adaptive mutualism asks us to imagine.